In this video, I want to give you an honest review of the science curriculum by Masterbooks called Adventures in Creation. It's a level 1 book intended for first graders or early elementary. I also want to give you a flip through of the curriculum, so you're going to want to stick with me. My name is Kristen. Welcome to my channel, Fearlessly Loved, where I talk about all things homeschooling, family, and faith, and where I hope to leave you a little bit more encouraged on your journey. If you like my video, make sure you like it, place a comment below, ask me any question that you have, subscribe to my channel, and press the little bell icon that comes along with it. I will be putting out new content on a regular basis, so you want to be updated on that. I have a daughter. She is 7 years old. She's going into 2nd grade. This has been my first year homeschooling. This is all new to me. We're going into our 2nd year of homeschooling. She's going into 2nd grade, and we homeschool all year round. So we are doing weeks here and there throughout the summer. And I wanted to give you some reasons why we absolutely loved this Masterbooks Adventures in Creation curriculum. I want to lay out the reasons why we enjoyed it. Honestly, I had to think hard of a couple cons that I would share with you. I will share them with you, but it was like I was trying to think of reasons how I would make it better, that would enhance the curriculum. So Adventures in Creation is part 1 of, right now, it's a 3-part series of level 1, level 2, level 3 of a Masterbooks science curriculum. Adventures in Creation is intended for 1st grade, and then 2nd, and then 3rd. The level 2 is Adventures in Our Physical World. Level 3 is Adventures, something that has to do with Earth. I believe it was just released. But today I'm going to talk about level 1. So Adventures in Creation is based off of the Genesis 1, basically, at the beginning of the world, and how God created the world. And so for each day, it goes into, so day 1, God created light. So those lessons in the beginning, it starts out with day 1, it's all about light and color and rainbows, and day 2, day 3, day 4, it gets into God created the atmosphere and the sky. God created the land and the earth and the sea and sea creatures and mammals and humans. So it really spans a wide variety of topics, whether that's weather, moon phases, plants, pollination, flowers, animals, the sea, we're learning about layers in the ocean right now. So we personally didn't get completely through the whole curriculum. We are almost at the end. We started homeschooling this year, like 6 weeks into school. So we're a little bit behind, but we only have a little bit more to go. Reason number 1 why we love Adventures in Creation is because the lessons are so simple and concise. My 1st grader has a small attention span when it comes to a lot of facts, hearing a lot of facts. I know that some children are all about hearing, auditory learners just love to hear all the facts. She's not really one of those people. She likes to get in there, dive in with her hands. When I spout off 25 facts to her, it's just like I lose her very quickly. So these lessons, they are during the course of the week. There are 3 lessons per week on 1 subject. And each day is just clean, concise, to the point. And the 2 days after that, they just drive home one important part of the whole concept. Say if the subject is on the phases of the moon. That's what they talk about for 3 days in different ways. So there's no busy work, there's no tangents that they go off on, which would be too much information for my daughter at this time. It's just short and sweet and to the point, which is perfect for this age level and for us. So the second reason why we love Adventures in Creation is because it has a biblical worldview. It is a science curriculum that incorporates the Bible. It starts with the Bible, and that's what gets introduced at the very beginning of this book. Where do we go with our questions about the world around us and about the living things around us and this earth that we live in? Where do we go first? We go to the Bible. We go to what the Bible says about creation. And that's the foundation, that's the basis that all of this, the science that they learn comes out of, which I, as a Jesus follower, as Christians, we just really appreciate biblical worldview. And, it's something that I want to instill in my daughter, but also bring forth, I don't want to just teach her one view, one biblical view of something. I do want to teach her, okay, this is what other people believe, or this is what other people believe, and give her the different views of the way people see and give different perspectives, but going back to, this is what the Bible says. So the number 3 reason why we enjoy this curriculum is because the experiments are so easy, and most of them incorporate items in our house that we already have. Just really simple experiments. Our favorite, definitely my favorite, I'm pretty sure that Zoe would argue that it was her favorite, was when we learned about the moon phases, and we used Oreo cookies, and we got to carve out moons based on the waning and waxing gibbous and the new moons and the full moon. And the best part of that by far was getting to eat the cookies. But it's just a really good hands-on way to learn, and I rarely on a weekly basis have to go to the store and buy crazy things that I can't find. I mean, it's just most of the items that you need are items that you already have around the house. If not, they're easily found at Walmart or Target. So the 4th reason why I love this curriculum is because the student really gets a really good overview of science as a whole, and what science is and why we study science and the processes that scientists go through. They observe and they research and they test. They create hypotheses and they test their hypothesis and they share what they learn and they make conclusions. So as opposed to diving deep, going into these mini studies, one after the next, and diving super deep into one specific topic at a time. This is a really good curriculum that, kind of gives you a bird's eye view and gives a really good overview of science as a whole, so they could understand from way out here and then, dive in deeper and closer and get into the nitty-gritty of the science itself. So the 5th reason why Zoe and I really enjoy this curriculum is because it incorporates a lot of the Charlotte Mason elements to teaching. I am someone who, I have kind of like an eclectic way of homeschooling. I love the Charlotte Mason approach. We utilize that here in a lot of the curriculums that we use. I'm not strictly doing one curriculum. We're not doing all Masterbooks. We're doing a bunch of different curriculums from different companies. Adventures in Creation uses the Charlotte Mason approach. There's some copy work. There's memorization. You already know it's short and sweet. I love the fact that there's no busy work. Another Masterbooks curriculum that we did do that sadly didn't work out for us. There was just a lot of busy work and activities in there that didn't really have too much to do with the lesson that was being presented. I really love how this curriculum is presented. And again, incorporating those Charlotte Mason elements is a big plus in our book. So when it comes to cons, honestly, I could only really think of two. I love incorporating literature into our teaching and learning. We use a curriculum for geography where we're reading picture books and stories, and that's just an extra bonus. If they had, a list of books that I could get out from the library that play into what they're teaching for each week, that would be nice. But that's something that I did on my own. I just picked out books from the library that I thought would play perfectly into what we're learning, and that's what we did. So is that really a con? A little con. The second thing that I thought of as a con, or how the curriculum could be better, I think like a couple, maybe 2 or 3 of the experiments didn't work, or they didn't play out as they were supposed to. It honestly wasn't a big deal, because whatever it was that we were doing, it was still fun. I think the one had to do with a balloon of some sort, and like the light being in the bathroom in the dark. I think it was towards the beginning. But again, just a minor con. Now let's flip the camera around so I could give you a flip through of what is inside this book. This is the front cover, and because we take pages in here on our day 3s of the week, we put our activities into a separate science notebook, so it's nice to have 3 hole punches here to make it easy to place those worksheets in the science notebook. So let's take a look inside. You see that we have a table of contents. It starts out with how we study science. The first day of creation, light waves, rainbows. The second day, atmosphere, condensation and evaporation, clouds, the water cycle, thunderstorms. The third day, earth layers, plants, photosynthesis, flowers and pollination, seeds. Going on to the 4th day, sun, moon, stars, constellations. The 5th day, birds, bird nests, layers of the ocean, the different layers here, sunlit and twilight, deep sea creatures. The 6th day, animal habitats, mankind, the circulatory system, uniquely you, the 5 senses, and conclusion. Course description. This says it's approximately 20 minutes per lesson, 3 times per week, designed for 1st graders in a 1-year course. Let's Talk Science Adventures in Creation will bring the Bible to life and instill in your child a love for science as they explore the world around them. Students will embark on an adventure through the days of creation as they discover that science is a wonderful tool God has given us to study His creation and learn more about Him. Through hands-on investigations and biblically inspired stories, students will experience, ask questions, and explore God's world through science. Students will use their imaginations to join Adam and Eve as they teach their children about God's creation, learn about the amazing things and creatures God created on each day of creation, engage in experiments and activities to bring learning to life, and compile a science notebook to share what they have learned about God and His world with others. So here are some course objectives. Learn that the study of science starts with the Bible. Explore the days of creation and learn about the amazing things God designed on each day. Discover that science teaches many lessons about God and about our relationship with Him. Develop a love for science through hands-on exploration and experimentation. Compile a science notebook as they document their discoveries and share what they've learned with others. So the course overview here tells you about how each week is set up. So this is based off of weekly lessons. We do 1 lesson per week. You know, of course, you could do it however you want to, but the way this is set up, this course is set up, and the way that we typically go about our weeks with this science curriculum We do 3 days out of our 4-day week. So on day 1, you're learning about the topic. Day 2 is when you typically do the experiment, learning more about the topic through experiments, investigations, or hands-on activities. And then on day 3 is when you share what you've learned with others as the student adds a new page to their science notebook. And that gives them a chance to, when it comes to science, you're researching, you're asking questions, you're researching, you're testing out your hypothesis, and day 3 is meant to be a part of that scientific process of sharing your results of what you learned. So that is where they encourage the student to share with a parent or share with a friend or share with grandparents what they've learned. Here's a note from the author. This talks about the course components. There's the Imagine That, and this is the part of the lessons where they're imagining the story of Adam and Eve and their sons Cain and Abel, and how Cain and Abel are, walking through their world as young kids and curious young boys asking their parents questions about the world around them. And it is a fictitious stories. This isn't truth. This isn't the truth of the word, but we're just imagining these stories way back when the earth was created. Discussion starters, there's discussion questions, there's memorization of verses that play into the topics for that week. Here it talks about the science notebook, materials list, helpful tips for the teacher, and then they have this all-encompassing materials, this master materials list of every single thing, which is really nice to see this, every single thing that you're going to need for the entire book, for the entire curriculum. And as you can see, it's mostly things that you already have: crayons, glue sticks, light source, garden hose, sunny day, fork, balloon, fleece, sharp knife, cutting board, apple. Rarely is there something in here that I actually have to buy. The one thing that I did have to purchase straight off the bat somewhere in here was a magnifying glass and a glass prism for week 3. I mean, it's not absolutely necessary, but I did go ahead and purchase that on Amazon, and it was neat to see the light being bent and creating rainbows with that glass prism. So it goes on through week 36, everything that you need, and you could check those off. And you know how much I love checking my checklists. Here's another checklist here. So this is the schedule. Like I said, there's 3 days out of the week 1. And so week 1, we're learning about how we study science. And as we go along, we check off those boxes. So I'm going to go through the whole book and do a flip through. But first, I want to give an example of a lesson in particular, how the lessons are set up. So, like I said earlier, on day 1 is when they introduce the topic. So here, this is talking about the second day of creation. God created the sky and the atmosphere. So we're learning about the clouds, and it goes into what do we see in the sky? We see birds, and we see the sun. We see clouds that are formed in the sky. And it goes into an Imagine That little story here about Abel looking up at the sky and imagining, where clouds come from. They come from water vapor. He's asking his mom, what does water vapor do? And, it forms into clouds in the sky. Clouds are filled with water droplets, Eve replied. And this is still day 1. It's going into the specifics of what kind of clouds that we see in the sky. And again, it gives a nice little checklist on day 1 of what you will need for day 2, which is the experiment. So that's nice to have that in advance. So here's cumulus, stratus, cirrus clouds that they learn about. And at the end of day 1, there's a little activity here. Let's draw a picture of what we see in the sky. So they're encouraged to draw the clouds that they see and label what kind of clouds are in the sky. Here's some discussion questions. What are clouds made of? You know, questions based on what they just learned. And then on day 2 is when they do their experiment. So here's everything that they need for this experiment. This was actually a neat experiment that we did. I remember it did take a couple tries to do this one, but they're basically creating clouds in a mason jar using, let's see, what did we use? Hot water and an aerosol spray, hairspray, and ice cubes. So we were able to create clouds, water vapor, inside of this mason jar, which was pretty cool. It took, like I said, it took a couple tries for this one in particular. So that was fun. And then there's some questions there based on the experiment that we just did from day 2. And then in day 3, there was another activity that they did using more material. Usually we don't use much, you know, there's not another checklist here, but for this particular week, it was a little more in-depth activity using cotton balls and glue, creating clouds and gluing them onto a sheet of paper, which we placed into her science notebook. So this was the day 3 of creating the cumulus clouds with cotton balls and what they look like. Stratus, which are the gray clouds, and cirrus, which are the flat, more drawn out clouds in the sky. And so she was able to share that with her dad when she was done about what she learned. And so she had something to show him and talk about the different types of clouds. So I am going to flip through this book, and then I will, since we did most of the day 3 activities, and place them in her science notebook, I'll just also flip through what she did in her science notebook as well. This is from their first lesson in the first week, where they're memorizing a Bible verse. Great are the works of the Lord. They are pondered by all who delight in them. And they have here actions that they could do with their hands and their body to help them learn the verse, which was super fun for my daughter. video. Let me know what you think in a comment below, and subscribe to my channel if you want to be updated on more similar content. I hope to see you on the next video.